You want to say a few words?
Hello, hello. Can you hear us now? We're hoping that you can hear us now. It looks like we're coming up on the screen. If you're watching, Tricia, if you're still watching, let us know if you can hear us now.
Everything I've got shows that you're getting sound. So let's check something else here.
We think we may have it figured out, and we want you to let us know if we have. We're going to check a couple more things until we hear from one of you to make sure that we are being heard by you.
One of the wonders of post-production and editing is that I can go ahead and edit this portion out.
I always say modern technology making life easier. So we had a little difficulty here for the first few minutes, I guess, on the audio of what we were talking about. So we'll just recap real quick what we were talking about.
We wanted to thank our production crew,
Yes.
Peter Galt, and just helping us get through that. I don't know why you can't hear us, Trisha. Hopefully things have resolved themselves. If not, just go ahead and let us know.
So we opened up talking about pancreatic cancer, and Bob had mentioned that we had lost somebody pretty prominent in public life this past week to cancer, pancreatic specifically, Alex Trebek, who, like Bob said, grew up watching this guy on TV, and it was a mainstay. No matter how your day went, when you came home, you could sit down and watch Jeopardy all, for a half hour and forget about everything else.
Your education did not end when you came home from school. It was, when the end credits of Jeopardy rolled. And I still remember some of those categories going back, and some of the answers and the clues that were given, and it was just a good time. And I'm really going to miss having those.
The quickness of recall is what really got me with people. I'd be on there like, oh, just give me about 3 or 4 minutes. I'll come up with an answer. I'll remember it. I got to go through a few others first.
Yeah, it was that reaction time and that buzzer.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I'm fast enough to get it. I used to be.
It doesn't get any faster as you get older, I can tell you. So we were talking about pancreatic cancer, and in general, it's trying hard to be number 2 in causing deaths. Colon cancer is number 2 right now for causing deaths from cancer, and pancreatic's trying real hard to get into it. One of the statistics they talk about, and there's a lot of variables in these statistics, so you can't take them to gospel about it, but there's about a 9% survival rate for people for a 5-year survival rate for people who are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Part of that problem is it's so hard to diagnose. It's so many different, you can have some symptoms that other cancers or just other illnesses can have: nausea, fatigue, stomach digestive problems, just things that you would just think are normal problems that I either overate or I did this or I did that to cause it. And that's part of the problem. What usually you die from when you have pancreatic cancer is not so much, you can live without your pancreas, but a lot of times it goes into the liver and causes other problems. So it's not that, because they can bypass your pancreas with surgeries. So a lot of times that people die from it, it's because it's already metastasized to other parts of the body that you may not know yet. Cancer can travel through your body for days to months to years sometimes without you even knowing it, because it just hasn't gathered in a mass as a tumor or caused you any symptoms to know about it yet.
Right. I just posted a link on our Facebook
cool.
where we're recording this about some of the tests that go on with pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
And according to the American Cancer Society, it is very hard to detect, and it's not something that they're very proactive about. Like you said, some of the symptoms that occur can easily be mistaken and confused for other things. And so it isn't the first thought when you walk to the doctor's office, oh, you have pancreatic cancer. It is one of those things that's hard to detect. And just going through and seeing how they diagnose whether or not you have pancreatic cancer, and at what stage they're able to diagnose. seems like they go through a lot of tests, from CT scans to MRIs to ultrasounds.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a whole battery of tests that they have to go through before they even know exactly what they're fighting. And that just shows you one of the, as great as modern medicine is and as great as what they do, there's still shortfalls. There's still lots of problems. And like Robbie said, it leads to, what was that? A 9% survival rate?
9% survival rate on average. Live 5 years. Now I've got personally have friends that were 12 years, 15 years survivors with pancreatic cancer, which is, almost unheard of. It's not unheard of because I know these people personally. But they're fortunate. That doesn't always work out that way. These figures, like I said, there's a lot of variables into these figures. How old was the person? How long did they put it off before they got their testing? How quickly does their testing go? There's a lot of variables to it. What's pre-existing in that person already. But about 55,000 people annually will get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I mean, it drops. What was I looking at? Now, one thing about it is it's usually in older people. Very seldom does younger people get it. The two people I knew or know were in their 40s when they got it. Normally, it's people over 55 on average that get it. So it's more 90% of the time it's found in older people. It doesn't mean, though, that you don't do certain things to try to thwart it from happening. There's a lot of lifestyle choices that we can make that at first will, at the very least, will determine the quality of our life, of our day. It doesn't mean that they're going to keep you from getting cancer, but you will live a better, healthier life if you try to do some of these things.
Right.
And you'll lessen your chance of getting cancer when you do that. That's why we talk about some of these things sometimes.
And you talked about one of the statistics you brought up. You brought up a list of 20 things that we can do to help reduce the risk of cancer.
Yeah.
And we might get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you brought up when you were talking specifically about pancreatic cancer is that a third of it has been linked to smoking.
Yeah, smoking tobacco. It's amazing. That, smoking, obesity, diabetes, cirrhosis of the liver, which a lot of time relates to drinking problems if you have cirrhosis of the liver, too much alcohol, and H. pylori. H. pylori is mentioned a lot of times, and a lot of people with cancer. I know when I was first diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's, some of the testing came back that I had the H. pylori virus. And that's an intestinal digestive tract virus that can cause several different, that are a precursor to several different cancers.
I'm not too familiar with that.
It's a virus. It's called H. pylori. It's an infection, a virus that you get in your intestinal system, mostly in the upper intestinal.
Can you spell that out?
Yeah, so it's H and then it's pylori, Pylori. And it's not uncommon for several cancers to have that, the person be diagnosed as having that. Now, it's not to say that that's causing it, but there's a correlation there between that a lot of people who have specific types of cancers also have that H. pylori virus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and they don't know for sure if is it because my immune system is starting to break down somewhat because it's trying to deal with this cancer that I don't actually know I have yet. And so the immune system sometimes gets a little wacky too, trying to figure out what's going on in your body, which can lead you to be more susceptible to other things, other side effects, or, from having that illness. And so it's just, it's very hard to know when you got cancer unless you stay up on it. And we were talking about, Bob was saying that how a lot of times they find it by going through all these tests. Well, all those tests he mentions, the time frame that he's talking about sometimes can be 2 or 3 months or more before you actually get diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet to meet any doctor, any medical professional that can sit down and say, yeah, this is exactly how fast this is growing and this is what it's going to be on this day. All we know is right now, this is what you have, and this is how fast we think it's going to grow by watching it from this point on. So a lot of times you don't realize you may have it, and you just don't realize it yet. Like you said, the symptoms are so all over the board. But smoking is related to at least a third of the people that get diagnosed with it did smoke cigarettes.
Right, and you also talked, and one of the other statistics you sent over, which is a dismal number. It's very depressing, but there's only a 2% survival rate after 10 years.
Yep, less than 2% are alive after 10 years.
I couldn't believe it when I read that. This is shocking statistic.
Yeah. I've had, like I said, I've got two friends that I know. One is over 15 years, the other one's going on 12, I think. And I have lost a very good friend that had it, and within a year he was gone. Just about in a year exactly from the time of his diagnosis. And he was just turned 50 years old. This has been 6 years ago, almost 7. So you just don't know. He was a very healthy man. Him and I golfed once or twice a week. He was very active, seemed very healthy person, and just started feeling run down and sick. And it just, everything was just going right. He was just got hired on as his job for a full time instead of the part time he'd been doing for, like a contractor for 4 or 5 years. Now he was hired. He was in the entertainment business and TV.
That's very
behind the scenes. Yeah. And his company, I'm not going to name the channel, but his station that he worked for, just as he was finding out whether he was going to be hired as a full-time employee, and he had been on as a self-contracting with them for the last 4 or 5 years. And that week is when he found out he had pancreatic cancer. And
wow.
He was talking to me about it and saying, well, should I even mention it to him? I'm like, dude, if you know you have it, they're going to know it eventually, because you're going to have to go through treatment or whatever. And so he did, and they ended up still hired him full time, gave him full benefits, full insurance.
Right.
So he was covered up until he passed.
Good.
Which a big hand out to them. I'm not going to name the station. It's a local Chicago station. But they really did.
That's
cool
making
thing with him.
That's doing what you have to in a tough situation. So.
Yeah, he was really worried what their response was going to be if he told them.
Right. Well, there's all sorts of HR protections to ensure that they're, taken care of. But yeah, absolutely, that's a big worry for a lot of people.
Yeah, if you got cancer, it's kind of hard to hide it after a certain point. You might be able to fake it for a while, but once you start losing your hair and weight and everything else,
absolutely. A lot of the statistics we've shared so far have been kind of depressing, have been kind of sad. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some positives of pancreatic cancer, which is a very weird sentence to say. But let's go ahead and delve a little bit into the foundations that you found out.
Yeah, there's pancan.org, which is a Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. They fund research, new research, as well as ongoing research. That's their biggest thing, is that awareness about fundraising. And, this year, like we all know, fundraising for every organization, every nonprofit has been hit very hard with the COVID going on like it has. Because you get your money, your biggest donations from individuals and groups of people when you do these big walks and galas and all that stuff. And they've all been cut out other than doing them by virtual.
Right.
So there's about a 50% drop off in donations to nonprofits since COVID's been coming around since let's say the spring. And so it's very important to be aware of these organizations. They're struggling. It's hard enough to get out the information that they put out when they've got a full budget going. And so you might want to, just check it out especially with it being towards the end of the year and you're looking to make donations, whether it's for tax reasons or whatever. Look into some of these cancer organizations, and they can really use the help financially right at this moment.
Yeah, we at Not Done Yet do a pretty good job of, putting out decent cancer organizations that you can support, or they can read more about on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
But by no means is it an ultimate list that includes everything. So go out, make sure you do your research, make sure you take a look at them. Make sure that there's something that you're willing to support.
There's an organization we put up a couple of weeks ago that lists lists almost all the nonprofits in the country and rates where their money goes, how much their executives make, everything on there. I forget what it is at the top of my tongue. I forgot what it is, but we'll get it up in the next today sometime.
Yeah,
that
and
you
then
can go to.
we also talked about how pancreatic cancer is hard to detect, and its early diagnosis is almost impossible, which is what makes organizations like PanCan.com so vital and helps us to understand a little bit about what they're doing.
The other thing with fundraising, also, a lot of people doesn't realize, and we've mentioned this before, the government funds research, but the government does not like to fund new research.
Mm-hmm.
The government funds established research that's been done. So any new research that's done that money usually comes from private donations, smaller donations, corporate donations to these organizations that are these nonprofits that are raising the money. So it's very important to donate to them. The government does pitch in money, but they won't pitch it in on new studies and new research, stuff like that. They want to make sure this is being done, then they'll give it the money. So half of that money that goes for this research, especially new research, comes from us, everyday people that are making donations. So
just one of the reasons why it's so vital to get involved.
Yeah. With either your time or your money or both, whichever. One of the people that we've had on before, we're talking to her, hopefully she'll be on before the end of the month, who's a pancreatic survivor, Chris Parrish, a friend of ours, that she lives in Brewster, Maine. And she started a few years ago. She's the person that's a 12-year survivor of pancreatic cancer. And she started the Purple Iris Foundation a few years ago in Brewer, Maine, where she lives. And Purple Iris Foundation, she has a Facebook page. You can go on there. Raises awareness, provides support, gives hope to individuals, families that are affected by pancreatic cancer. And she's just burning it up. It's purpleirisfoundation.com, I believe. I don't know if she is a nonprofit, so it might be .org. We'll find out for you for sure. But it's called the Purple Iris Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Chris has done a fantastic job of coming up with that idea, creating it, and helping it to grow to what it is now. They do all kinds of interactions. It's mostly Purple Iris Foundation is mostly for people in Maine, but they do other things. I was looking up some information on them, and they last year, and I think they're doing the same thing this year. They bought a car and they painted it in a cool purple color. It's going to go to and did all this stuff to soup it up. And they're going to take it around the country to the different car shows and stuff to bring awareness to the car industry, the collectible car industry. People that have, they may not, you hardly ever see anything like that at these shows. You see really cool looking cars, but you don't see any that are bringing awareness to cancer that much. And that's just a way to tap into that audience. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think most of the people that go to the car shows are going to be older people. I mean, at least the ones that have the cars there. I don't see as many young people driving a 1970.
We'll have to fact check that demographic research.
That's just my opinion. That's not necessarily not done yet's opinion. But you see young people at the car shows, but you see the people that are sitting by them are usually older, middle-aged to older people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big group that's more susceptible to cancer. Age has got a lot to do with cancer also. A lot of the cancers that we get usually are older people that get it, middle-aged or older people.
Yeah, and not done yet. Just posted to their Facebook a couple links about the Purple Iris Foundation and PanCan.com. So I encourage you to check this out. Also want to give a quick shout out to those who are commenting and following along as we record this.
Yes.
I know we had some technical difficulties earlier, so it means a lot that you're still with us and commenting and being proactive. Your engagement means a lot to us.
Yep.
People like Tammy and Phil Nocerino. So we're thankful that you're with us, and we appreciate your continued support.
Phil knows full well about pancreatic cancer. His wife passed a little over a year ago from pancreatic cancer. So he had to be the caregiver for that, and which is the toughest spot in the fight, as we all know. And our hats off to you, Phil. You're in our hearts, and you know that. So how difficult that is. And Phil has stayed active. I think a lot of times people don't know what to do if they've lost somebody to cancer, and as Phil's finding out, if I stay active, I feel like I'm doing something.
Right.
I feel like there's value to what we had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I always tell people. If you go out and help somebody else in this fight, nothing at the least, it gives purpose and value to what you had to go through, what you and your loved one had to go through during that fight. Like we said, November is a busy month for cancer awareness. I didn't know until I looked it up that this week from the 8th through the 14th is Mouth Cancer Awareness Week. I'm looking at the months, the weeks, the days of November and what they were awareness of.
Wow.
And that's another one, Mouth Cancer Awareness Week. Our co-host had throat cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in that area of where he had it. So Tom didn't realize he had it. He went for his checkups and doctor says, I think you got something there on your tonsil. And Tom's like, tonsil's been gone for 20 years or more. So you just never know. So we're trying to let people know about these days. Just, again, it's the awareness. The more people that hear about cancer and hear about people surviving and living through it, the less fear they're going to have of cancer, of getting their test. That's my big thing is if I can get you in that building to get your test done sooner rather than later, you might have a better chance if you do have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win-win. You go and get testing done, you find you got nothing, you feel great because you feel healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You do find something in your mind, you're like, hey, at least I caught it. So don't put off any testing. If it's time, your doctor says, hey, you need to get in and get this pre-screening done, please go and get those done. We don't want to be reading about you in this paperwork. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're real big on getting your screenings and stuff done. November 19th, this is American Cancer Society's Great American Smokeout. And that's usually held on the third Thursday of November. That's where they ask everybody to stop smoking, at least for that one day, to try to make a difference. And that's by the American Cancer Society. Started that a few years ago, the Great American Smokeout. So just remember that on the third Thursday, November 19th.
What is
a smoker,
that? The 19th?
Yeah, November 19th. If you're a smoker, put them down that day. As difficult as that may be, give it a try. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we wanted to talk about after the election here was medical cannabis. Now, if you're somebody going through life and you really have no need for it or it doesn't interest you and you don't think there's anything much to talk about it, try getting cancer. If you've got cancer and you're having trouble every day with nausea and fatigue and just the horrible feeling that goes with it, most people who have used it or tried it have found that cannabis really does help them with their nausea, with the pain management sometimes, with the fatigue even, helps them sleep a little bit better. So this is a tool. I look at it like, I don't care what anybody's personal opinion about it is. If this is something that's been factually proven with clinical tests that can help somebody that is going through some of these symptoms, then nobody has a right to stop that person from having access to it. The law shouldn't have anything to do with it. It should be between you and your doctor. I was going to look up and see what states now have medical cannabis laws on the books. And it's easier for me to tell you the 3 states that don't have any medical cannabis laws or propositions on their book. And those 3 are Idaho, South Dakota, and Nebraska. The only 3 states in the country that don't have some type of medical cannabis law on the books or proposition that's in the process. 3 to 5 of those, I don't remember which ones, the laws that just passed recently, some of them in this last election. It's going to be legal now in that state, but they're just now implementing the process. And I know here in Illinois, it took close to 2 years from the time that it was legal to where a patient could actually go to a dispensary and get it. And I was a little involved with that at one point of helping people get their paperwork filled out and sent in. I worked with a company that did that for people because there was a lot of confusion at first on how to do it. And so we ended up helping people get the paperwork filled out and sent in. And, I know of 2 people that passed waiting to get their medical cannabis card so that they could legally have access to it. One was a cancer patient, one was an seizure patient. Mm-hmm. And that really stuck with me on how important it was to keep doing what I was doing to try to bring awareness about it and get it done so that people at least had that option to where they could say whether I want to try this or not to help me deal with this. I think it should be a tool that's there as an option for the person and their physicians to decide whether or not they want to use it without having to worry about. I couldn't stand the thought of somebody sitting there in their home or in bed, sick as they could be with cancer, and trying to use cannabis to help alleviate some of that stress and anxiety they were going through, and having to look out the window and worry about a police coming and arrest them because they were trying to have a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
When my daughter went through it the second time, that's kind of what triggered me to go public about it, was, holding her hair while she's throwing up $500 anti-nausea pills that weren't doing anything, couldn't keep them down long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And she was afraid to use it the first time she had it because police could come and take her kids if they found out, which they legally could do at that time. The second time around, she didn't have to worry about that, and we were able to get a card for her, and it really helped her manage that second round of cancer.
Well, I know it's a major issue, and it's a controversial issue to some extent, because, like you said, there are still states out there and still lots of people who have an issue with legal marijuana and legal cannabis, but we're not talking about
the
recreational usage. We're not talking about going to the store and buying a 6-pack of
give me a pack of Acapulco Gold, please.
There
The
you
100s.
Yeah.
And,
what we're talking about is the medical use of it.
Yeah.
The medical use does have solid science behind it.
Yep.
And that's what we're addressing here today, because it is something that we feel can help the quality of life and can benefit certain cancer patients. And it should absolutely be able that you should be able to have this conversation with your doctor about it. And unfortunately, in those 3 states and several states just a few years ago, you couldn't have that conversation. No. And we have, like we had mentioned with the medical science, we've made some great progress, but there's still a lot of progress to be made.
Yeah, the big debate still is about THC and CBD, 2 of the many compounds in the plant that are beneficial to people. One is the THC is the one that gets you high. The CBD is one that helps regulate pain and anxiety and stress and stuff like that. So like I said, there's 47 out of the 50 states now have some form of medical cannabis. So please talk to your doctor about it. 11 are now allowing it for recreational use. Those 3 states, Idaho, South Dakota, Nebraska, do not yet have any. I think Nebraska actually has something in the works, but it hasn't been approved yet to be implemented. I don't even think it may be like one of the referendum type ones where it's, asked, should we even pursue this?
Right.
The biggest problem is, as far as federally, cannabis is considered a Schedule I drug. There's 5 schedules to the scheduling system, the Controlled Substance Act. And the highest and most dangerous is Schedule I, which is considered highly susceptible to abuse with no known medical value. And for some odd reason, the federal government has scheduled that as a Schedule I drug, which is supposedly has no medical value and is can be highly susceptible to abuse, which seems kind of strange to me. Some of the other drugs in that Schedule I scheduling, along with so cannabis is scheduled along with heroin, LSD, mescaline, ecstasy, psilocybin, and quaaludes. Those are all considered Schedule I drugs with very little medical value, high chance of abuse. Just to let you know how the federal government mind works sometimes, Schedule II drugs, which is less dangerous, still susceptible to abuse, but is considered to have some type of medical value. And some of those drugs in that category, which is a lesser category than the one that cannabis is in, are Vicodin, methamphetamine, methadone, fentanyl, Dilaudid, Demerol, Oxycontin, Adderall, Ritalin. Those are all considered less dangerous than cannabis, according to the scheduling that they have it in. So that's what causes a problem, is the federal government schedules it one way, whereas 47 states are considering it to not be scheduled in Schedule 1, to be considered to have medical value. And there is evidence there. We're working on getting the government to take it off of Schedule 1 scheduling so that more research can be done with it and more medicines can be made with it. And the reason I bring all of this up is there's an FBI report out for 2019 called the Uniform Crime Report. And it stated that more arrests for possession of cannabis were done in the United States in 2019 than all combined violent crimes. There's more arrests for cannabis in 2019 than for all violent crimes combined. And that count number, 545,000, 500,000 people, 602 were arrested in 2019 for possession of cannabis. 92% of that 545,000 were arrested for simple possession, for personal use, basically. 92%, 500,000 of those people, that 545,000 were arrested for simple possession. And there's no reason, if you're sick, to go and buy from the black market and risk all that comes with that when talking to your doctor, getting a medical card, whatever it is for that state, and being able to visit a dispensary where you know what type you're using. You can get it in different forms. It doesn't have to be in a flower that has to be smoked. You can get it in oils and edibles, all different types of ways, creams that you rub on for pain management. So there's a lot of, the pro for buying it legally through a dispensary or through the system is that I don't have to risk going to jail. I don't have to, I know what it is. I don't, I can get it in different doses. You know how much the percentages of the compounds that are in it. So it's just so much, and right now, overall, the pricing for black market is still better than what a lot of these legal dispensaries are charging. And it's very tempting to just go and get it from the black market, especially if people have been doing it the whole time they've been doing it before it was legal. But to me, it's just not worth it, the trade-off, especially if you're sick. If you're dealing with cancer, you don't want to be dealing with the police taking you to jail and going through that, hiring lawyers and going to court and all that, when you can just go to your doctor, talk to him, get a card, go to the dispensary and buy it.
Right. Well, I don't think any of us at Not Done Yet would condone illegal activity.
No.
We can debate the merits of the war on drugs and what is happening in our country vis-a-vis that. But until it becomes a sustainable option, we do encourage you to go ahead and follow local and state laws, because those are because you need to make sure that you're doing that in accordance. If you do have that conversation with your doctor and he says, yes, this is an alternative you should definitely explore, we are all for that. Yeah. But we at Not Done Yet don't condone people to break the law or to go ahead and not follow the advice of their doctor.
Exactly.
Or physician.
Yep. And a lot of times you may help your doctor learn about it. Your doctor may not know that much about it either. Doctors know what they're taught in school. And they're taught in school that it's a Schedule I drug with no medical value and highly susceptible to abuse. So that may be their first reaction to it. So you may have to do a little research yourself and bring it to your doctor to bring awareness to them. I know that was one of the biggest problems here in Illinois, was getting doctors that were willing to look at the information. In Northern Illinois, a lot of the doctors work for big organizations here in Chicagoland area, big hospitals. And 4 years ago, when the law was first coming into play, nobody wanted to be the first hospital, the first big guy to say, yeah, we're going to allow our patients to do this. So that was a very hard nut to crack at first, was getting these doctors to come on board and the big institutions to come on board, which now most of them do. Most of them, especially here in Illinois, because it is legal in Illinois now. A lot of the big corporate, big entities are now on board with helping their patients get the medical card so that they can have access to it. And again, like I said, if this is something that works, then we want you to do it legally. We don't want you to do it illegally. We don't want you to break the law. We don't want you to worry about the police coming after you because you're trying to have a better quality of life. That's why we're telling you about this. Still 500,000 people are getting arrested for it, even though it's legal in 47 states medically and illegal in 11 states recreationally.
Right.
Last year, they still arrested 500,000 people for it.
And that just goes to show you need to be careful, and you need to understand the laws and understand what you can and can't do.
Yeah, there's no reason not to go to do it legally now.
Right.
That's what we want to stress is we don't want you to do it illegally. We want you to have the confidence with you and your doctor of, is this an option that I should be trying?
Yeah. Well, Robbie, you always come to the table with so much information and knowledge, and you seem to always be educated in what you're talking about. And we absolutely love that about you. You bring so much to the show.
Well, it's
as far as that.
Yeah, it's things that are important to people having a cancer. Like I said, it's just maybe an issue that doesn't mean anything to a lot of other people. But if you're dealing with cancer, you're looking for something that can help me get through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's another tool I can use to get through this? And
yeah, especially the properties that help you fight chemotherapy. I remember going through chemotherapy and not being able to control my nausea, not be able to control the pain that was happening. And so this would have medical marijuana would have definitely been would have been an alternative that was worth exploring at the time.
I've been very public about my own use. I've used it all my life pretty much. I'm not a drinker. I worked a lot, so that was my way of relaxing. And I did not realize the medical value of it until I had cancer and how quickly it knocked that nausea out so that it still may take me an hour to eat that salad, but at least I could keep the salad down. Whereas before that, it wasn't working. And that's what kind of first got me interested in the medical aspect of it. And then when my daughter was sick with breast cancer and I lost a brother-in-law to lung cancer, and he was a local deputy sheriff, and I never brought it up to him, and I were diagnosed at the same time, and I never brought it up to him that I was using it. And it always bothered me. And in 7 months, he was gone. He had lung cancer, metastasized everywhere. And I, for whatever reason, 18 years ago, I didn't bring it up with him, and it always stuck with me that I didn't. Somebody else may have, I don't know. But that was one of the deciding factors. And then when my daughter had it, that was the turning point where I said, I know what this does. I've got to go public about it. And I had full support from everybody that I told I was going to do that with, between business and private. But it's just something that I knew it was helping me, and from listening to others, it was helping them. And it was something that needed to be addressed. And so I just, like I said, we don't want you to go out and do anything illegal. We want you to do this legally and have access to another tool that may be helping you. So talk to your doctor about it if you're not using it just yet. So
yeah, well, I certainly appreciate it, and I think that's good information to explore.
Yep.
We'll be posting information on our Facebook page about how you can read up on it and become just as educated as Robbie is, because I don't know if that's really possible. I don't know if anybody can become as educated as Robbie is.
About that,
we might record a whole separate podcast, just Robbie going through and talking about it. Because we certainly don't have as much time as we'd like to delve into it and delve into treatment options.
Yeah, one of the reasons I have all these notes a lot of times is I have the time to do it. Bob and Tom are still working full-time jobs, and I have the luxury of not having to do that at this moment, so I have more time to find out a lot of this information. We're getting close on the time again here. It goes so fast when we're here. One of the things we wanted to talk, one of the things we wanted really, like I said, we were talking about neuroendocrine cancer, and like Bob said, what the hell is that? Another something that cancer can get into. And the neuroendocrine system in our body is specific cells that help regulate a lot of the normal bodily functions in our body. It helps the certain cells help the lungs recognize asthma and things like that, so it fights it. There's cells in our stomach lining that trigger good probiotics to kick in when we need them, or in our gut. So it regulates a lot of different symptoms, even in the brain, the lungs, the stomach, most of the major systems in our body. The neuroendocrine cells have a hand in that. They're the ones that kind of manage and tell everybody else what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to go. And you can even get cancer in those. And it's, you can be in a digestive system, lung, brains, adrenal gland, breast, liver, any of these systems. So it's one that a lot of people don't really know that much about, but that can affect you. And it's a very rare one. You don't get a lot of cases with it, but it is a cancer that does come up sometimes, and people just need to. Again, it's one of those that's hard to determine. It's hard to find because of where it grows. It doesn't just like grow in a mass. When a lot of people think of cancer, they think of a mass, like a baseball or something in my body somewhere. And cancer doesn't always grow like that. Cancer can grow what I call flat, where it's just kind of spread out through your body, through different systems in your body. Mine was lymphoma. So it's in my blood. It's a blood cancer. It's not, I did have a mass, but it was because it affects the lymph nodes. Lymphoma does. That's what I had. So it affects the lymph nodes. One of my lymph nodes swelled up like a baseball. So it was, after 6 months or so of being misdiagnosed, there was actually something there that we could finally see. So a lot of cancers don't grow like that. So that's why cancer is, so hard to find sometimes. It doesn't always present itself like you think it's going to.
Exactly. It's, cancer is something that we're still learning about. And that seems to be the theme of the show is medical science and how much further we still have to go to fully grasp the subject matter at hand. Because, we can spend hours, as you alluded to earlier, about talking about cancer and all the information that comes with it. But unfortunately, there's still so much we don't know, and there's so much that we have to comprehend in order for us to make significant strides. And there are lots of people out there doing great work, but there's still so much we have to learn.
I think the more we find out, the more we realize we don't know. Cancer is just cells that didn't read the program that says die and get out of the way and make a new room for a new cell that's coming. All our cells have that apoptosis. That's the process that our cell goes through when it knows its time is up and it dies and gets out of the way and a new cell comes along. A cancer cell is no. You designed me to live and to grow, so that until I'm told otherwise, that's what I'm going to do. And so that cancer cell starts multiplying and doing whatever it can to stay alive. I tell people, cancer wants to live so bad it'll kill its own host trying to stay alive. That's how determined cancer is sometimes. So what can we do to try not to get cancer as much? Well, we've got a little list here of 20 most cancer-causing habits, which I think some of them are pretty hilarious because they pretty much describe my lifestyle.
Right. It's a little bit of a hard list to grasp. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But these items have been fact checked. We do have time to do some research on the show, and unfortunately, it's it might not be something we want to hear, but it's something we need to hear. And so we're gonna end the show with going through this list and
advice,
and offering a little advice on how you can prevent cancer. Because earlier we talked about how you can treat it and manage the pain, but these are some preventable measures that we were able to get our hands on. So,
and I think that most of these are just, I went to Weight Watchers when I was in my 20s, and they said, eat right, sleep right, and exercise, and you'll be healthy. I'm like, oh, I already knew that in 7th grade. It's learning how to do that is the problem. So, it was hard writing this stuff down, knowing that I was abusing most of them. So obviously too much sugar, cancer loves sugar. When you go and do a PET scan, they shoot you full of radioactive sugar and then wait for an hour and then watch where that sugar goes to in your body. Because if you have high cell activity, like a cancer that's growing fast, that sugar is going to shoot to that area and it's going to light up, and that's going to kind of help tell them where that cancer is at in your body. So cut back on the sugar. Try not to use white sugar so much. If you're going to cook, use brown sugar, or a sweetener, something different than just plain white sugar. Eating processed meat. I love my sandwiches, man. That's what I love living on my sandwiches. And I'm looking at it, and even at the last line is, I'm like, well, okay, but what's processed meat? In the last line, it says even sliced ham, turkey, and roast beef, like sandwich meat.
Oh man,
I'm like,
it was just. I had a salami sandwich for lunch. It was delicious, and now
I had a roast beef sandwich for lunch. But they say, and these are all considered things in moderation. Just like everything else in life. If you do it in moderation, you're going to have a better outcome than if you give it all.
One of my unofficial mottos in life is everything in moderation, including moderation.
That's right.
So
some of the others using talcum powder. You can see it on Facebook all the time. People getting sued for using talcum powder, or because allegedly talcum powder can cause there's something in it that can cause cancer. Using plastic. We all do that. I mean, that's another thing that just, instead of using plastic bags, and they're talking mostly about plastic containers that have certain chemicals in them that can leach into the food if you're using a plastic container. So try not to use plastic any more than you can.
Right.
Use glass.
And there's simple solutions. What they're referring to is the advent of microplastics.
Yes.
And the average human body digests enough microplastics during a year to create a credit card. That's how much plastic we ingest, and obviously that's not natural. And that's not something we need to be ingesting. So when you do use plastics, I'm using a plastic bottle right now. You need to read up on it and make sure that you're using it properly, and that's what the plastic is used for, and that it's allowed to be used for that. Don't be refrigerating your meals in plastics that aren't rated for it. Don't be using the microwave to heat your dishes when they're not rated for it.
Another one here, potatoes. Now, potatoes, it says French fries and chips. Moderation again. And I thought, what the hell? French fries? Now I can't even eat French fries.
Man.
The reason is,
why don't you just go down a list of everything I ate in the last 24 hours and tell me that it could result in cancer?
Once it's heated, there's a compound, because you got to heat chips to make potato chips. You still got to fry them, or French fries. There's a compound called acrylamide that is also found in tobacco. That compound is also found in tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's only noticed in the potato when you cook the potato.
I always thought that as long as I didn't smoke and as long as I practiced moderation with my drinking and stuff like that, that'd be good to go.
Yeah.
It turns out that if
enough.
I smoke my potato, then I could also be in for a bad time.
So don't smoke any potatoes out there. Okay?
Yeah, no, don't smoke hash browns, don't smoke potatoes, French fries. Don't light them.
Oral hygiene. Brush your teeth twice a day. Try to gargle. The reason they say is because they're finding a lot of infections throughout the body come from the gums. Nowadays, if you go to get a procedure done, any kind of a surgery, a lot of places tell you that you have to have dental clearance before you can have that surgery. And a lot of places are doing it now because they're finding, you can get infections you can have an infection in your gum. If I get a knee replacement and I've got an infection in my gum, that can get down and go into that knee and cause an infection there. So oral hygiene is very important. Stressing out. And obviously, we know stress is going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause more susceptibility to having cancer. Grilled and charred meats. Again, if you grill it, don't burn it. If you grill it, I guess that's the best thing I can tell you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty good excuse if your spouse burns something instead of forcing yourself to eat it. Yeah, well, this could cause cancer, so I'm just going to go ahead and sit this one out, and we're going to order some pizza or something.
Yeah,
I guarantee that's the next item on the list, isn't it?
So far, I haven't seen anything on pizza. No, pizza's good still. But if you're in a bathroom, you want to be careful because there's parabens that are in a lot of the products that we use in the bathroom. Your toothpaste, your shampoo, your deodorants, and cosmetics all have some kind of parabens in them that are not good for you and can lead to cancer. In the bedroom.
Again, make sure that you're using. Okay.
Gotta have.
Wow, I interrupted this conversation at the weird point But I was going to say, make sure you're using stuff as it's prescribed to be used and
Yes.
not taking shortcuts. But Robbie, you're an expert in a lot of things, and why don't you go ahead and educate us a little bit about how sex can be?
Now, I don't believe that moderating sex is going to help you in any way and not get cancer. So feel free to have sex. It's because of the HPV virus, basically, is what it is.
Okay.
And people say, "Oh, I've got throat cancer. I've got cancer of the tongue or something like that. How did I get it?" A lot of times they get diagnosed that they have the HPV virus and don't even know you have it. It's just like any other virus. It can stay in your body for years and you not know you have it. And the only way you can get it is for having sex with people. So pretty much most of us are going to deal with an HPV virus throughout our life. That's why they push getting the test done or getting the vaccine. Talk to your doctor about the vaccine for your children. So hopefully help protect them from getting that type of cancer later on.
Keep in mind that it's not just women who can suffer side effects.
Right.
Men can be silent carriers of the HPV virus, which is redundant, the human papillomavirus.
Yep.
We can be silent carriers of, and so that's something we need to be on the lookout for and watching out for and taking care of our partners.
Yep. It causes a lot of oropharyngeal cancers of the throat, neck, tongue, mouth, from HPV virus. So you want to talk to your doctor about that for your kids. Smoking tobacco, obviously there's 7,000 chemicals in tobacco. There's 70 of them
and 6,999 can cause cancer. So.
They're saying only about 70, but I'm going to go with a higher number with him. Secondhand smoke can be just as bad also. That's something that we have to, you can't. Yeah, my wife smokes, but she smokes outside or away from me when she does smoke. So to not, especially if you've already had cancer, you're still more susceptible to getting it again. Excessive drinking, obviously, you get cirrhosis of the liver, which can go into cancer. Not exercising regularly. Again, it goes back to what I was taught in 7th grade and in Weight Watchers in my 20s. Eat right, sleep right, and exercise, and you'll probably be healthier than if you don't do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Chronic inflammation is something that a lot of people have a problem with. Crohn's is caused from that. A lot of illnesses where your body is reacting. Inflammation is your body going, "Hey, I need to do something because you're having a problem in this area, so I'm going to flood it with blood and fluids and cause an inflammation there to hold it in place." And that wearing down of your body system can eventually cause you to be susceptible to cancer. And then one way to help fight that is to eat more fruits, vegetables, lean protein, healthy fats. I just found out apparently one of my favorite vegetables or fruits, tomatoes, is not good for you if you have arthritis. So you can check that out also. I'm like, no, I can't even have a good turkey sandwich. I can't even put tomatoes on my sandwich.
We'll be posting several of these links so that you can do your own research and determine if tomatoes may be a healthy option for you. But before I get any more depressed, I'm going to go ahead and stop this list. We're approaching the end of the show. And,
I got 3. Excessive sun exposure, don't be overweight, and not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And if you do all those things, you're probably still going to get cancer, but you'll be healthy. You'll feel good.
Make sure you eat your fruits and vegetables. Make sure that you're using things the way that they're supposed to be used. Make sure that you're being responsible.
Live life and enjoy it, but be responsible.
Yeah, to our friends that have passed, to those that need to follow the list more closely, we want to sign off and say thank you. Tom, we hope that you're doing well. We can't wait to see you next week.
Yes.
For Robbie Gibbons, that's my name. For Robbie Robinson, I'm Bob Gibbons signing off because we are
not done yet.
See you next week.